Prior to the 1970s, there were over 4.5 million children that were denied adequate schooling, and an advocate group back in 1933 was the first one to start advocating for special education. It wasn't until the 1950s that there was laws that started being passed to provide teachers with training for students who were disabled. And it wasn't until 1960s that teachers actually received funding for special education, and in 1970s this is where the most improvement occurred, because this is when IDEA came about. In 1973, the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 came about, which guaranteed civil rights to all students who were disabled and required accommodations for students who were disabled in schools. And in 1975, Education for All Handicapped Children Act, EHA, guaranteed and enforced the right of children with disabilities to receive a free appropriation education, which is also known as FAPE. And EHA changed from what they had in 1975 to IDEA. And in 2001 and 2004, No Child Left Behind Act was passed, which means that every child deserved the same equal opportunities of an education. And back to IDEA. IDEA gives children with disabilities an individual entitlement to a FAPE and their parents certain procedural safeguards to ensure their right to meaningful participation in decisions about their child's education, which is really important. And then Congress recognized the special needs of students with disabilities when it passed the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, once again known as IDEA, in 1975, which then changed again in 1997 and again in 2004, because it changes every 5 years. And when it says free, it does mean free at no cost to the parent. They can go to public school free. Two cases that I want to talk today about parental rights and students' educational rights in public or private schools is first Brown versus Board of Education. This was in 1954, which children had a right to an education on equal terms, whatever their race. Various court cases address the implications of this right in the context of educating children with disabilities. And the second case is the Mills versus the Board of Education of the District of Columbia, which was in 1972. The court held that no child with a disability could be excluded from a regular school unless the child was provided adequate alternative educational services suited to the child's needs, and a constitutional adequate prior hearing and periodic review of the child's status, progress, and the adequacy of any educational alternative. 3 resources that I would recommend that will help any teacher stay up to date with current local trends in special education is talking to a special education lawyer. If you're ever confused about anything and not sure how to go about something, knowing the laws, knowing what's right is really important. Another source that I found was to look at blogs and newsletters that pertain to special education and the law. This is really good, not just for the students, but for parents, because parents have a lot of questions, and it's always good to just know that other teachers are relating to what's going on, and you can hear from their experiences of how to deal with a certain situation. And one that I would recommend if you're in the state of California like I am is the California Department of Education Announcements and Current Issues on Special Education. It's basically just the California Department of Education website, and there's an actual location that you can click, which is Announcements and Current Issues on Special Education, and they have tons of resources in there that I would definitely recommend looking into, because they're all current, it gets updated, and it's really good to just stay on top of any current legal trends going on in special education.